The movie opens with Kim, who's getting ready to go on a road trip with her friends during their vacation. She's the one driving, and as they start their journey, everything seems normal until they stop at a red light. Suddenly, a strange old woman knocks on the car window, startling Kim. Her friends laugh at how scared she got, but they keep going. Kim turns on the radio, and every channel is broadcasting news about the one-year anniversary of Flight 180, the same flight from the previous movie. She finds it odd but brushes it off as a coincidence and continues driving. The highway is packed with traffic, police cars, motorcycles, and dozens of other vehicles. Leading the pack is a massive logging truck carrying large wooden logs, with a police car directly behind it. Suddenly, the chains holding the logs snap. One log crashes straight through the windshield of the police car, instantly killing the officer inside. Chaos erupts. Cars flip, crash into one another, and the whole scene turns into a deadly pile-up. Kim's car and her friends are caught in the middle, flipping 5 times, but somehow still alive, until a truck comes barreling through the flames and crashes directly into them. Then Kim wakes up. It was all a vision, a terrifying premonition. She's still at the traffic light, shaken and confused. She tries to shake it off until the same old woman from her vision knocks on her car window. The same radio broadcast plays again. This time, Kim is terrified. Realizing the vision is about to come true, she immediately pulls her car onto the road to block traffic, trying to stop the accident before it happens. The other drivers start honking and yelling at her. A police officer walks over to confront Kim, and she begs him to stop the logging truck, telling him something terrible is going to happen and that everyone on this road is about to die. Of course, he doesn't believe her. Suddenly, the nightmare begins unfolding just as she predicted. The truck crashes, and the pileup starts. Kim, who had stepped out of her car, watches in horror as her friends are still inside. The officer grabs her and pulls her away just in time, moments before her car is hit and her friends are killed. Though devastated by their deaths, Kim realizes she saved many others. Later, at the police station, the survivors gather. Kim tells them her vision was just like what happened to the people on Flight 180. One of them, Eugene, mocks her, saying, "So what? Death is going to come after us now, one by one." He doesn't believe it and walks away. Everyone goes their separate ways. Kim's father picks her up and takes her home. Meanwhile, one of the survivors, Evan, goes back to his cluttered apartment after buying a new computer. He starts cooking, dumping some leftover pasta out the window. While preparing dinner, he puts on a new ring and watch he just bought. But the ring slips into the sink. As he tries to retrieve it, his hand gets stuck. At the same time, the frying pan catches fire, and flames spread quickly. He finally frees his hand and grabs the fire extinguisher, but it doesn't work. Panicking, he tries to escape through the window, but all the windows are jammed shut. He manages to break one open and climbs down the fire escape, but the ladder won't reach the ground. He jumps, landing safely, but then slips on the pasta he had thrown earlier. As he tries to get up, the ladder suddenly drops and impales him in the head. Evan becomes the first victim. When Kim hears about Evan's death, she realizes her nightmare is far from over. She decides to find Clear Rivers, the only survivor from the original Flight 180 disaster, to learn how she managed to escape death. But right now, Clear has locked herself inside a psychiatric hospital, in a fully secured room, sealed off from anything that could possibly harm her. She's doing everything she can to stay alive. Kim decides to visit her, and before going in, the staff removes anything that could potentially be dangerous. When Kim enters, Clear is clearly terrified. She backs away and tells Kim not to come any closer. Kim explains what happened and begs for her help, but Clear refuses, saying, "If I leave this place, I'll die." Meanwhile, Nora and her son Tim head to the dentist because Tim has been having some dental issues. The dentist begins working on him, but something strange happens. A bird keeps flying into the clinic window, over and over. It rattles the dentist so much that he decides not to give Tim a needle for anesthesia. Instead, he uses gas, the kind that keeps you conscious but unable to move. The dentist begins the procedure, but then the bird smashes through the window and flies into the room. The dentist goes to chase it off, leaving Tim alone in the chair. A toy that was hanging above him suddenly falls into his mouth. He can't move, he's awake but paralyzed, and begins to choke. At the very last second, the nurse rushes in, pulls the toy out, and saves his life. As they leave the clinic, thinking they've dodged a bullet, Kim and the police officer arrive. Kim had a vision involving birds, so they were next on the list. She warns them from afar, shouting, "Watch out for the pigeons." Tim, being a clueless kid, runs to a flock of pigeons to scare them off. Just then, a massive pane of glass falls directly on him, crushing him instantly. After witnessing all of this, something shifts in Clear. Her conscience wakes up. She leaves the institution and decides to help. She takes the group to see a mortician, someone who knows about death. He rambles on about how death is inevitable, how there's no escape, but finally gives them something useful. The only way to break the chain of death is with a new beginning, a new life. The group leaves, not quite sure what he meant, until they remember there was a pregnant woman involved in the crash. If they can save her and she gives birth, that new life might break the cycle. The officer takes it upon himself to track her down. Meanwhile, the remaining survivors gather at the officer's home. Nora, grieving her son, arrives with Eugene and Kat. Eugene still doesn't believe any of this is real, while Kat insists, "I've just started living. I don't want to die now." Kim tries to convince them there's still hope, that there's a way to survive. But Nora, devastated, says, "My husband is dead. My son just died. If I die now, I'll be with them. I want to go." She leaves the house, and Eugene, fed up, follows her, saying, "Count me out of your crazy theories." The two of them get into an elevator. Just after they leave, someone in the house notices a shadow on the ground shaped like a hook, a sign that death is coming for Nora next. They try calling her. The phone slips from her hand, and as she bends to pick it up, her hair gets caught in the hook being carried by a man in the elevator. The officer tries to warn her over the phone, but the signal is unclear. Finally, she hears the word hook, panics, and tries to pull away, but her hair is tangled. She screams and struggles, but can't break free. The elevator doors open, and she manages to get out, almost. Her hair is still caught inside, and as the elevator rises, it pulls her up violently. Kat and Clear try to pull her from one side while Eugene tries to free her from the other. But it's too late. Her head is ripped from her body. Nora is dead. Eugene, horrified, completely breaks down. In shock, he grabs the officer's gun and tries to shoot himself in the head 6 times. Nothing happens. The officer checks the gun. It's fully loaded. Clear steps in and says, "That's because it's not your time to die." Just then, the officer gets a call. "We found the pregnant woman you've been looking for. She's here with me." Everyone rushes to find her and help her give birth before death reaches her. At the same time, at the police station, Isabella, the pregnant woman, goes into labor. She pleads with the officer there to take her to the hospital immediately. He rushes to get her to safety. On their way, fate strikes again. Isabella and the officer accidentally crash into the car carrying our heroes. Isabella, in pain and desperate, yells at her officer to keep driving. "I'm about to give birth. Help someone else with the crash." He listens and drives off toward the hospital, unaware how high the stakes really are. After the accident, the woman who was driving was trapped. Her leg was pinned, and she couldn't move. Eugene had been impaled by a pipe, but the officer, Kim, and Clear were all okay. They load Eugene into the ambulance and rush him to the same hospital. On the way, the ambulance nearly hits a young boy, one of the farm owners where the crash took place, but someone manages to pull him out of harm's way just in time. At the scene, a news van arrives but crashes into a rock, causing its gas tank to start leaking. Meanwhile, the firefighters use a rescue saw to cut Kat out of the wrecked car. But as they're working, the airbag suddenly deploys, slamming Kat's head backward into a sharp metal pipe embedded in her seat. It punctures her skull. She dies instantly. Kat had been holding a lit cigarette, which falls from her hand and lands on the gasoline leaking from the news van. The fuel ignites, setting off an explosion. The blast sends a metal fence, made of old train tracks, flying through the air. One of the onlookers is struck and gruesomely sliced into 3 pieces. Now only Clear, Kim, and the officer are left. They jump into a car and race toward the hospital to reach Isabella. On the way, Kim has another vision. She sees a defibrillator and a doctor trying to restart someone's heart. She doesn't quite understand it, but she assumes it's about Isabella, so they step on the gas and rush to the hospital. At the hospital, Clear checks on Eugene, while the officer and Kim head to Isabella, who's already in labor. It seems like everything's finally going to be okay. The baby is born, and they assume the curse is finally broken. But in Eugene's room, something goes wrong. His ventilator suddenly stops working, and gas begins to leak into the room. Outside, Kim, Clear, and the officers celebrate, believing they've broken the cycle of death. But then Kim is hit by another vision. She sees her own hands covered in blood, sitting in a car, sinking into a lake. It hits her. Isabella never actually died in the car crash she saw in her first premonition. She was never part of the death list in the first place. That means her baby's birth didn't break the chain. Kim races to Eugene's room to save him, but it's too late. A spark triggers the leaking gas, causing a massive explosion. Eugene is incinerated. As the blast settles, Clear looks at her own hands, covered in blood. That's when it clicks. She's the one meant to die. She's the one who has to restart the cycle with a true new beginning. She runs from the hospital and steals a car. The officer chases her, trying to stop her, but she tells him, "I'm the one who's supposed to die." She drives straight into the lake, just like in her vision. She's unconscious. Her heart stops. But the officer pulls her from the sinking car and rushes her back to the hospital. She's brought into the ER. Just like in her vision, the defibrillator is used, and her heart starts beating again. That moment marks the true new beginning. The cycle of death is finally broken. Sometime later, the family from the farm, the one where the crash originally happened, invites Kim and the officer over for a barbecue to celebrate their survival. Among the guests is their young son Brian, the same boy who had narrowly avoided being hit by the ambulance. His mother retells the story to Kim and the officer, grateful for his rescue. But as soon as Kim hears it, her face goes pale. Brian wasn't supposed to survive. According to the pattern, he should have died. Before Kim can even react, Brian, who had been grilling nearby, lights the barbecue. The gas ignites. The grill explodes violently. His arm is blown clean off and lands on the picnic table. His mother screams in terror. And with that horrifying moment, the movie ends. If you enjoyed this video and don't want to miss a single moment of horror and suspense, backhand index pointing down, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you're always the first to know when a new story drops. Speech Balloon, let us know in the comments. Which character do you think deserved to live and who got what they deserved? Brain, get ready for even more shocking twists, unbelievable events, and endings you'll never see coming. Television, that's it for today's recap, but stay tuned, because death isn't done yet.